Hey, back, and we're taking a look at a heck of a lot more new TwoSun knives that have come out this year. And I'm going to start with the 300s because that's basically where I cut off the last time. But I do have two knives that actually came in since then. And this is right before the new year, so sure, I'll consider them to be released this year. Why the heck not? First one up here is the TS36. Very, very low number, but this is a new knife. It's not a re-release or anything like that. You can kind of tell because it has NightMorning's insignia rather than the signature or whatnot. I do have a couple of nitpicks with the knife. The flipper tab does curl down quite a bit and will end up digging into your finger. Not exactly my favorite thing. That's, of course, probably why there's also the finger choil there. It's a little small for me, but, if you got normal-sized hands, it'll do. We got basically about 8.5 inches, but a lot of it's just kind of this kind of cone in there. This is using polished canvas micarta, a lot like the Sultan here. Very similar in the polish and texture and all that sort of stuff. Just, of course, black dye instead of red. And lock bar access is kind of annoying. And the flipper tab, because it curls down, does not overcome the detent it just doesn't overcome the detent. They didn't put a detent ramp on there, which is probably good in this particular case, but still makes that fairly difficult to end up closing. So, it's an interesting design. And the blade shape is pretty darn good, and they haven't messed up with micarta on the pocket clip or anything like that. But it just kind of misses the mark on some of these things. It's in D2 steel. It's a fairly tall blade, so the cutting geometry is pretty darn good on it. The other one we got here is this one. This is a Tepe design. It's button lock here. We got titanium that's fully DLC coated. They also do make this one with the whole crazy anodization. Lightning strike, I think they end up calling it anodization here. It had a bit of a miscommunication as when Tepe actually submitted this and everything. He understood that this knife was going to be released in M390, and well, it wasn't. It was in D2. Here we are here. Looks like I got number 13. Hooray! And or boo if you think that 13 is an unlucky number. Whatever. It is what it is there in this thing. Go ahead and lay this up here. Just under 9 inches overall. This is a big boy here. Button lock. Don't really have any problems with that. Not super comfortable to do the thumb flick, but you can certainly do that. You can also slow roll that. Super great. And reverse flick it. That's all sorts of good. We got plenty of room here to choke up if you want to do that. Crown spine on this one, so that's kind of neat. I do like the finishing on the titanium, and as we can see in here, which if I get a heck of a lot more light in there, we can see that. Yeah, a whole bunch of skeletonization going on there. This still isn't a light knife by any stretch of the imagination. And I don't remember exactly the blade stock thickness on there. I think they said something like 3.8, but it looks a little bit closer to 4 to my eyes. But still very, very comfortable in the hand. Hollow ground. I just finished ending up doing a reprofile to 17 degrees, and you can see that brought the shoulder up quite a bit on that. And that usually has to do, especially with these guys, with the hollow grind not being anywhere near as thin as a full flat grind or something like that to give it a little bit more rigidity and stuff like that. This one has that coarse satin finish, but that's only on the hollow grind. It's not on the ricasso or flat area there, so it doesn't have a problem that plagued another model that came out kind of near the beginning of the year that we'll end up getting into, and we'll bring this guy back up then. But still, fairly interesting design. It does have the country call-out pivot collar on there, so of course, just as I mentioned on the last video, if that's not something that you're into, this might not be the model for you, or you could always look into modifying that. You can either sand a bit off of the top of these guys with, I wouldn't recommend using a sharpening stone because that's probably going to be way too hard on it, but some sandpaper or something like that, and then find a washer that's kind of reasonable and can still accept the pivot cylinder going through it, and that'll kind of get you there if that's something that you don't like. To me, these always kind of look like the pivot colors that Andrew Demko ends up doing on like the 80-20 and 20.5s and stuff like that. Not all of them. Apparently the titanium ones don't, but all the ones with Grivery and all the other stuff. The stuff that's $150 for an AUS 10A blade. Then there you go. But pretty interesting knife. I do like the blade shape. I also personally prefer having this Tonto kind of shape with a very aggressive drop point that doesn't have a compound grind going on where the tip is like, as thick as a tree trunk, like a lot of other designers here with TwoSun end up doing. For one, it makes sharpening and maintaining them quite a bit easier for me, but I also just like the having a little bit more of a slicing characteristic for EDC rather than having a really, really reinforced tip just for the stabby. But all right, there we go. Oh, if I didn't mention it, this is the 210. So, all right. Now we can start on the 300 series, as I'm already 7 minutes in. Yeesh. Okay, so this is the TS332, and this is the first of the 300 series that has come out this year. This is a D Antimonov, or I believe his first name is Dennis. I do follow him on Instagram. I've seen him play some ukulele and some other stuff. He seems to be an interesting chap. But nice pocket clip. This one reminds me quite a bit of Max Tkachuk's grandpa knife. Certainly not one that came out this year. It's a couple of years older, but still just kind of a more traditional pocket knife pattern kind of thing going on here. This is a very, very aggressive clip point with a crazy amount of belly on it, which you might see on some kind of smaller slip joints or something like that. This thing has ridiculous action on it, which glad about. That's always good. This one, 14C28N, not D2, so, I figured I'd mention that since it's there. We don't have any curve for a lock bar cutout or anything like that, but still relatively easy to get in and do all of that. This one has carbon fiber inlay. There's also another model that doesn't have the inlay there, but this area here is just textured titanium. So there you go. It's a kind of an interesting larger size of a traditional pattern. You probably look at that and go, oh, that probably looks like a few GECs, maybe some of the Jack Wolf knives that have been coming out hot and heavy throughout the last few years and stuff like that. But all right, next up we got the TS340. This is a Jelly-Jerry design. To my knowledge, it does not have a name associated with it. He might have one, but it really hasn't been mentioned much publicly, if that's the case here. This is going into carbon fiber on the scales, but 2 screws for the pocket clip there, so that's pretty good. It's fairly stiff, but works out quite well. This one has a crazy curve to it, mostly like a pistol grip sort of thing. And that does do some interesting things for tactile sort of things. If you do want to do some penetration work or something like that, giving a nice poke, having this thing rest in your palm really feels great for doing some of that stuff. Kind of reminds me of one of those K-Bar TDI kind of knives, but of course this is much stretched out and probably not something that you would carry on your offhand to protect your firearm in case you're in law enforcement or something like that. But Yeah. Let's see. This one comes in two different variants. This one has the gold anno. There is also one with the purple anno, which at the time in which I purchased it, that one was sold out. So ended up going with this one, and I like how it looks as well. So that's pretty darn nice. This one is also in 14C28N, and they did a stonewash on there, so it'll hide some scratchies. There we go. That was just a smudge. I didn't actually scratch it yet. Bolster lock, not a huge amount of lock bar access going on there, but still fairly wide. I don't really have any problems with it. And the whole hole here and everything like that, you can end up doing some reverse flicks and stuff like that. But the detent is much more tuned for the little flipper tab there. So it will take just a little bit more effort than you might expect for that. This has their polished titanium collar on there, so doesn't have the country of origin call out collar, so that's a bit different there. Nice hidden lanyard sort of thing integrated into the back spacer. It's pretty interesting, and it kind of looks like this blade comes up really far here, but unless you are really actively trying, I don't really have too much of a problem with that having the snaggletooth sort of thing. So there we go. Next one up is another Jelly-Jerry, and it's this one, and this one is weird, and I love it. I absolutely adore this knife. This is called the Matrix. It's a front flipper, but we also have a thumb stud on there. Tkachuk. It's got that nice flat thumb stud, a lot like the 218 Lovebird that came out last year. But this thing is, of course, much more enormous. It's about a little over 8.5 inches overall, but this thing is super beefy. This has got a D2 blade on it, satin finish. And as you can see here, the front and the back have things flipped upside down and kind of inverted. I do really like that because you don't really see a lot of stuff like this. And the construction on it underneath is pretty fascinating how they ended up getting all of that stuff going. It's a really nice utilitarian blade shape, nice drop point, all that sort of stuff. You can really choke up pretty far close to it, and the jimping comes out far enough that makes me happy for that. You got a nice amount of lock bar access for it, but because of that, the thumb stud's not going to be available on the other side. So that's, I suppose if you're a lefty, that might be just a little bit sad. The screw should be in all the way. I don't know what I ended up doing with that. I will take a look at that just a little bit later. But yeah, just really a fantastic and just kind of crazy out there design from Jelly-Jerry. Just right up here at the very tip, we have just a little tiny bit of a snaggletooth sort of situation that could end up happening. But because this thing doesn't have a flipper tab to it, it's a little less susceptible to having something like that happen if it's in your pocket and you're reaching for it for deployment. The little lightning strike anodization here, that's the only way it comes. These things don't... they don't have a variant where these particular parts are sandblasted. So there you go. But yeah, the 342 Matrix. Let's see, and we got the next one here is the TS343 Molten. And if you weren't aware, didn't watch some of the videos earlier, I actually got the privilege of naming this particular knife. Kind of asked Jelly-Jerry on Instagram if he had a particular name or anything like that for it. And he said no, but I could go ahead and give it a shot. And, I gave him two options, both of which I liked. Molten is the one that we went with. The other idea I had was Aqueous, because it just kind of has some nice flowing lines and all that sort of stuff. But went with Molten, and don't have any problems with that. This thing is about 8.5 inches overall. Nice thin drop point going on with it. I do like them doing a little bit more with, I don't know, some companies will call that G-Mascus or a topographical finish for the G10 or something like that. Either way, it's just some different colors of G10 swirls and stuff like that. I particularly like it. Yeah, we got a few channels going on in here, and this one only comes with the gold ano for the pocket clip, backspacer, and all that. There's not a sandblast version of it, but hey, it's at least super easy to be able to do that. We got stonewash on the flats or the ricasso area. This is D2. We got a nice satin finish. Really nice blade geometry. Now I've got all my fingerprints all over it, but that's okay. Just like the matrix that we looked at, we got the jimping that comes out far enough that even if you do want to choke up on that, it's still super nice. I like this for a whole lot of different grips and everything like that. It's still even pretty comfortable in a reverse grip in case you want to do that reverse hammer grip sort of thing. However, usually I feel a little bit better if there's a flipper tab or something like that. A little bit more of a finger guard to back up your thumb on the back to give you just a little bit more power, but still a really nice EDC kind of knife. Not a huge amount of lock bar access there, but it is scalloped on both sides for that bolster lock action. Super great. The jimping for that comes up pretty darn far. I'm not exactly the best at doing the reach around for it, but just using the standard front flipper deployment for it feels super great. This one almost kind of reminds me of the Civivi Imperium, but of course that one doesn't, or this doesn't have a thumb stud associated with it, but still, fantastic knife. Ah, yes, this one makes me sad. This is the TS344. This is a Mazwan Mokhtar design. And there is so much about this knife that really had some good things going for it. We have these nice fullers that are nice and crisp, super easy to open that up. This one, quite a leaf shape, really deep hollow grind on here. And they end up having some really aggressive satin finish going on there. Like I said, I would mention that this one also does. Now this one also has the problem of being on the flats as well. That really affects the action on this thing. I've done a lot of work to try to make it better, and it still doesn't feel real good, unfortunately. But, I mean, everything about the blade outside of the action for it is pretty darn good. This does have the call-out color on there, so there you go. This one has a little bit of that G-Mascus kind of thing, but mostly carbon fiber, and of course, titanium. Yeah, I'm definitely going to call that a sub-frame lock on this one in particular. Pocket clip, it's still got that kind of a thin little ball thing on there, so it's a little difficult to get in and out of the pocket, but I mean the ergos on it are pretty good. The blade is quite nice. Kind of surprised that this stuff isn't etched inside, but I guess TwoSun hasn't done that on some of the more recent Mazwan Mokhtar designs, so unfortunately there's that. I did talk in the last video about this guy that came out just a little bit after it. It's a NightMorning design, a little bit more Warncliffy, but otherwise very similar in size and feeling and grip and all that sort of stuff. So between the two, I really do think that this is a better design. Just a little bit more comfortable in the hands, really easier to get in and out of the pocket with it and all that stuff. And the action is actually nice on this one. I've tried to polish the flats in the ricasso area and doing some other blade work and stuff like that to try to make it better. And, well, it is better. It still ain't great, unfortunately. Probably can't hear some of that going on there. But, yeah, unfortunately, this one just Seems like TwoSun seem to have messed something up on the way there. Let's see. Next up, we got the TS345. And, well, this is a little budget knife. This is another one of those collaborations with NightMorning and Y-Start. However, this one actually has some decent blade geometry, as opposed to, let's see, this guy, since I still have him out here. That was, very, very similar size, but this thing is, I don't know, it has a blade geometry somewhere between a boat anchor and and an old MacBook or something. I don't know. This one actually has a decent amount of slicing capabilities to it. Still, finger choil is a little bit small for me, but I could also see with this being small, if you had a full-size finger choil, you're only really getting like an inch of blade or something like that. So that's a little unfortunate. This one, because of that, is a little bit more my preference there. The full-size folded over pocket clip is a bit too much, I think, on this one in particular. And it's got a giant call-out pivot collar on there. But out of the small NightMorning and Y-Start design collaborations, this one seems to be a little bit better than the other ones. All right, this thing is absolutely fantastic. Here, this is the TS346 goddamn chunk. Let's see. Yeah, we got it up top here. This is a NightMorning design. This is built a heck of a lot more like a Medford or something like that. I'm talking 5mm blade stock thickness on this, but still, really comes down to an amazing blade geometry. Really makes me want to carry this thing a lot. We got jimping exactly where I want it. And even reaches up far enough for me to do some pinch grip sort of stuff. So that's great. Nice large frame locked sort of stuff here. And even though it doesn't have a way to attach it to the blade itself, unless you wanted to do a lanyard yourself for it there, we do have a lock pin here. So we can take that and fully screw that into the other side that goes through the blade, so it kind of acts as a locked version of an access lock on top of the frame lock here. So this thing can have just an amazing amount of strength. Your mileage may vary, however, on it might or might not actually mess up a little bit of the blade right around here if you are closing it. I had that happen on mine, but once I've sharpened and reprofiled the thing, I don't have that problem anymore. This thing is not riding on it's not riding on bearings. It's using phosphor bronze washers on it, so a little bit easier for all the maintenance and that sort of thing going on there. You don't have to worry about all the crud coming in there and messing all that up. So that works out super, super great. So, alrighty, there is that one, the TS346. Woo! Alright, next up, we got the TS347. This is a really, really weird one here. It's another Wong design. Really, really elongated tanto going on here. 8 inches overall. This one has a 10 G10 on it. When I first purchased it, I thought it was Micarta, but it's not. The pocket clip on there looks to be kind of difficult, but it has a bit of flex to it, so it's not too bad in and out of the pocket. It's another kind of one of those guys, like I had mentioned earlier with the 332 of it. Kind of has that old school pattern kind of vibe going on with it. But yeah, just a little bit different. Of course, you know, an elongated tanto is definitely not a traditional pattern, so there's definitely that. This one does have a bit of difficulty trying to actually close the darn thing up. Because it has a lack of lock bar access to it, and it's a little pointy and all that sort of stuff there. Just kind of a pain in the ass to end up dealing with, unfortunately. But still opens up pretty nice. It's got that fuller there, which unfortunately is fully blocked off, so you can't really use that for opening deployment or anything. And yeah, this is another one that I don't really have a whole lot of great ability to be able to do that reach around flick open. But still, fairly interesting. Very, very light in this particular instance. They've done a lot of weight relieving and everything going on here. But yeah, just a really, really strange one overall. But still, plunge grind is actually done really, really well on it. Ends way back there, and then you do have a bit of a sharpening choil before the blade. So that is a plus for it. All right. Next one up, we got the TS349. I really like this thing, but I would not suggest actually getting this particular variant of it. Yeah, this is a front flipper here, so let's go ahead and front flip that guy open. Looks a heck of a lot like, you know, a really, really old school elephant toe kind of pattern going on here. This is a D2 blade, of course, like all the rest of them are. I accidentally put this, or put a bit of a steeper sharpen on this thing than I would on other D2. I think I did this at 16 instead of 17 degrees. But yeah, that is what it is. It's got a little notch there for your pinky to sit on. So it does feel nice and secure in the hand. Kind of a 3.5 finger grip there. Super nice and comfortable. It does have a sharpening choil. Wish that the blade started a little bit further away from it, but that's basically what ended up happening with it. This thing does have basically the micarta on this, which is their newer canvas micarta, but a single attachment point into that. I don't have much wiggle yet, but that can certainly change, unfortunately. The good thing is, though, this one does have jimping all the way around, of course. But the good thing is they do make another variant of this for the same price that does not have micarta scales on it. They are just fully flat with titanium, and then they've done some texturing sort of stuff on there. Doesn't quite look like a jigged pattern, but fairly similar to it. So it still has some nice traction on it, and that would be the one that I would suggest you go for. It does have some kind of call out things here. Something that is really prominent on their old TS49 model that also did a little bit of that. But since this is kind of an old school vibe and stuff like that, I don't know. It doesn't really bother me. But overall, I really, really do like the pattern and the model and all that sort of stuff. Just, yeah, I make sure you'd get the full titanium variant of it, unless you like to have some wiggly pocket clips. All right, next up, and this came out very much near the end of the year rather than the beginning, which the last one did. This is TS354. This is green titanium. To my knowledge, that's the only color that this thing has come out in. It's got that call-out pivot collar on here. Really, really snub-nosed guy. This is a Mazwan Mokhtar, which they've actually allowed him to have the information etched inside rather than keep it on the blade there. So you don't really see TwoSun etched on the blade, but you do have that pivot collar, of course. Pretty interesting design. This one is an M390, so yeah, a little bit more upscale. Had no idea when I purchased this that it doesn't have a pocket clip on it. So there's definitely that. It is smaller than the really, really crazy large slip joint that he made, so it's going to be a little bit easier to carry. And we got the the little pyramid peak kind of things. Kind of reminds me of a tortoise shell or something like that. Fairly interesting. Something that I haven't heard a whole lot of other people really mention, but kind of bothers me a little bit, is the swedge comes down really, really thin there. And that's the part where, your thumb or whatever is actually interfacing for putting a lot of force on that. And it's just a little uncomfortable for me. I wouldn't have minded having the full spine thickness out at the top there, underneath that fuller. But yeah, there you go. And it's got that little notch. Pretty useful for doing utility cuts. That little notch there always kind of reminds me of the sheepdog knives, even though the super large one is just not super great for it. Almost looks like it's a front flipper. Oh wait, there we go. There's the Mazwan thing on the blade. Never mind. And you can, but not. Again, not incredibly comfortable for me, mostly because of how much they've reduced the width of the spine there. But still, you got the fuller for doing all that sort of stuff. I do like the knife. It's pretty interesting, but it doesn't have a pocket clip, so it makes it much more difficult for me to carry. All right, next up, we got the TS355. I absolutely adore this damn thing. This is a Wong design. We have titanium scales with some red G10 inserts going on there. G10 is much more sound material than Micarta is, so I don't have a problem with that being mounted there with a single attachment point. We do have a coating on the titanium here, so it appears much darker gray. These little thumb paddles, you don't necessarily need to use them, but they do work really well for that. We got some nice, chunky crenellations going on here. Really comfortable in the hand. Of course, this is a hawkbill blade going on here with some decent blade geometry. This one in particular has really great action on it. It's really drop shotty. I've put skiff bearings in here, but the original ones were also drop shotty. Like I said, usually when you're upgrading to skiff bearings or any of the higher bearing counts, you're generally getting a lot more lateral strength, and not just making anything smoother over there. But yeah, this thing's a heck of a lot of fun to play around with. Really nice, good cutting stuff there. Really gradual plunge grind on there, so that can be a little bit more difficult. Since this is a recurve, I haven't really put it on a fixed angle sharpener. This one isn't super crazy curves, so you probably could, but still, it's just much easier to sharpen these up on a belt system. Just works out a heck of a lot better that way. And yeah, this thing is just a heck of a lot more useful than I anticipated it being, for sure. Not a small knife at all. We got basically like 8.5 inches overall. And of course, because that's curved down, we have just a little bit more sharpened blade length than you would if it was straight. Really adore this damn thing. All right. Yeah, sorry about that. We got the next one here, and this one, unfortunately, has a huge amount going for it, and one absolute fatal flaw that really kills it. This right here is the TS357. It's Max Tkachuk design here, and yeah, 8.5 inches overall. Supremely nice blade geometry going on this guy. It's a D2 blade. The thumb paddle here ends up working out super well. I really do appreciate that. We have a nice back spacer here with some mill work that kind of makes it look like it's got some file work and all that sort of stuff going on there. We got a nice titanium subframe lock. Super nice action, but you will notice that I don't have the pocket clip attached to it, and that is definitely on purpose, because it will absolutely just chew up this micarta like instantly if that remains on there. Like I first pulled this thing out and was almost immediately able to rotate the pocket clip all the way around. So yeah, super fatal flaw. Means I can't really suggest that anybody end up getting this thing. But I've removed it, kind of treat it like a what the heck are those things? Open L. Just something where you can keep it somewhere, do a lot of work with it, but not necessarily keep it attached to your person. So yeah, unfortunate, but still, outside of the pocket clip sort of situation there, it's a fantastic knife. Let's see, next up, we got this guy here. This is the TS358. This is probably one of my favorite knives that have come out this year. This is a Keanu design. He's the few knives that he's put out with TwoSun so far. I've liked all of them so far, but I think this one's probably my favorite. This one I've also put skiff bearings in, but still super nice. Regardless, we got some nice titanium scales here with just the right amount of attaching, or not attaching, that's not the word I'm looking for at all. Jimping or texturing or something like that on there. This kind of does remind me a little bit of the Elementum button lock, except for this thing does have a detent on there, and you can actually index flick that sort of thing out. You have enough friction to be able to do that, so that's super great. I do kind of wish that the jimping up here was just a little bit better, but or more aggressive, I should say. But there's that. This one, you can actually swap the pocket clip on over to the left side, so that's fantastic to see. They've done an enormous amount of weight relieving on the inside here. This is a titanium pocket clip. However, it's not milled out. It is just kind of stamped and bent, and you can see it's a little bit funky. I ended up catching this on a chair arm and kind of tweaked that out or something like that. But so that's the pocket clip, maybe just a little bit more brittle than you might want necessarily, but that's about the only negative thing I can really say about it. It's D2. These ones are numbered. Looks like I got number 11. Just really, really nice grip. He does a pretty good job with plunge grinds and all that sort of stuff. It's pretty quick, and then has a little bit of extra troil before the blade starts there. It's just really, really fantastic knife. A little bit large. I absolutely like that in general, though. But yeah, you can see it's a little bit shorter than some of the others this year. It is quite flat on the bottom, but this little pocket clip does stick out a bit above it. So if you wanted to stick the knife up absolutely straight, like the Spyderco Watsu, you can't quite do that with this because of the pocket clip, but that has absolutely no relevance onto its usefulness. But whatever. But yeah, absolutely fantastic one this year. Let's see. Next up, we got this one. I wonder who made this one. Yeah, it's a Rihe design here. This is in D2, so it's more of a budget knife. This is a double detent knife, a bit like the YX designs, but of course this is in 2-layer G10. We got that tan color and then black underneath, and we have full titanium liners underneath there. Pretty interesting. I do like the blade shape and all that. Just a standard kind of drop point. But yeah, this thing is like most double detents, fairly darn easy to break that. So that kind of puts me off from wanting to end up carrying it and trying to use it all that much, because I will inevitably, break the detent when I don't want to there. and it doesn't have the flipper tab like a lot of the other YX designs that can save you a little bit. So yeah, it's just a little bit scary of a knife, but overall, if you're actually used to that or whatever, ends up working out all right. Nice blade geometry, even though I think it's probably a lot thicker than it probably needs to be in this particular implementation. But yeah, there we go. Next one, we got the TS363. This was the first knife that I ended up picking up that has that lightning strike ano, which also basically taught me that this stuff is real slippery. It does not have that same sand or bead blast finish as their standard ones do. This one is, I'm not super crazy about it. This is another Rihe design. We got a milled pocket clip, but we have an enormous amount of the knife that will actually stick up out of your pocket there from where the pocket clip ends. So that's not super great. The pocket clip is a little bit difficult to get in and out of the pocket, but it's not super terrible. But you do feel that pocket clip right up top there. So that's only if I'm really wrapping my fingers around it for a kind of a gorilla grip. If you have a relaxed saber grip, it's much less of an issue, but hey, it's still there. And this thing is a saber ground knife, and this is really thick because of that, because it's a half height grind. It's really thick. This cuts about as well as you probably can imagine from it. In these particular instances, and with the aggressive looks of the blade, I'm assuming this is much more designed for tactical kind of purposes rather than just some straight EDC sort of stuff going on there. But a nice stonewash finish on the blade. It's D2, like most things are from the company. Interesting kind of jimping things here that go into that blade on the side there. And this is a nested liner lock, which is also something I didn't really notice when I was trying to, or when I did purchase it. So that is a little bit different. This was kind of one of the first ones that I've seen, but there's been a few of them that have come out over the past year that's like that. But we do have some decent lock bar access going on, and this thing has an amazing action going on with it too. So, man, there we go. That's the 363-C for color. Okay. Next up, we got the TS365. This is a Rihe design as well. This one came out a bit later on in the year. This is another instance where this is a nested liner lock with titanium scales going on here. We got that flipper tab that, I mean, this thing is tuned crazy. This blade flies out when you end up trying to deploy it there. So they definitely got that going for them. Really gradual plunge grind to it. So, just be careful if you are putting your own edge on there. Pocket clip is not super terrible on this one, but nothing super crazy to write home about. It does try to mimic the lines of the scale and all that sort of stuff. Fairly useful drop point though. It's a nice overall knife. Really aggressive crenellations up top here. And because of that, they're just a little bit sharp on the inside there. That might make you want to end up using this more with gloves than with a naked hand. But there we are. There we go. Next one up, we got the TS366. This is another Rihe design. This is another one of those half-height saber grinds. This one is in 14C28N, which is just a little bit different than what we see with most things here. This does have a satin finish to it, so if you're worried about scratches or anything like that, well, that's going to be just part of part of what's going on. I do believe that they did release some more a little bit later on. The second run was in D2 rather than 14C, like this one here. And yeah, this one really, to me, speaks a lot more to tactile sort of stuff. American style Tonto here with the secondary grind that's much thicker out here. For me doing the reprofiling and all that sort of stuff. 17 degrees here, and then 23 here, and that kind of matches up for the most part. The shoulders there, so they don't look wildly out of place like I've accidentally done on one or two in the past. This has got polished 10 canvas micarta. We had some nice lock bar access. That's the word. Yikes. Come on, Jerry. Pocket clip works out pretty well. Action's quite nice on it. Fairly tight tolerances on the inside there, so it's not super crazy thick there. And it can kind of be a front flipper, but I'm kind of guessing that it wasn't designed to necessarily be that. But yeah, there we go. And about 8.5 inches overall. But it has that extra reach out there on the back, like the parrot and the penguin from QSP. It kind of accommodates things a little bit more. Let's see. This is the TS367. Yet another Rihe design here. And this one's a big one. Yeah, this is like a full 9-inch knife overall. It's got the call-out pivot on there. Due to kind of some subpar photography, I thought these were carbon fiber when I ordered it, but got it. And yeah, these are canvas micarta inserts, which I don't mind. They have a really nice texture going on to them. It's using their fine fine mesh fabric going on there, like they've done on a couple of other ones earlier on. Has a nice feel to it. Blade shape is really weird, kind of a harpoonish Bowie kind of style blade going on there. Fairly large finger choil. Still, I don't quite feel super safe using it, but if you got some normal sized mitts, then no problems for you. D2 blade going on here. I do like this really deep dip here for my thumb, and it's large enough to actually fit my thumb. Super nice. I really appreciate all of that. We got some nice blade geometry going on here because it's super nice and tall. The pocket clip is not terrible. I had a little bit of a pocket stuck in there, but you can see it comes down to quite a thin amount of gap in the back there. Not super great. It means if you're getting it all the way back there, you're probably wearing slacks, in which case you might not want to carry a knife that's close to 4-inch blade on it. But yeah, you got these cutouts that you can do some reverse flicking with. It's definitely an original design. Maybe not the absolute most practical one, but hey, there you go. Let's see. Next up, we got the TS368. Another Rihe. Amazing, isn't it? This one is Tonto, if I remember right. Yes, this is a Tonto. Starts out kind of a half-height saber and ends up a full flat grind right before the tip there. So a little bit interesting going on with this one. This one doesn't have a compound grind, so a little bit easier for maintenance on that, but maybe just a slightly more brittle tip going on with it. I'm not a huge fan of this one. For one, the pocket clip on this, and I did this in the opening sort of thing. This pocket clip is absolute trash. You cannot, or at least I have not successfully been able to force my pants into any of this because you have only that little tiny notch right there to try to force that over when you're trying to put it into a pair of pants. It's to the point where I do want to attempt to modify that by grinding it down, but I haven't really gotten around to it. These thumb kind of things, much more designed and shaped for a slow roll open. Like you did see, I can flick it open, but it's not super crazy comfortable for me to end up doing that. It just kind of digs into my thumb a little bit there. But you can do a reverse flick with it fairly well. Absolutely no lock bar access there. We do have a little bit of scallops, but that's that. And the last thing, of course, is I generally hate having a nice pointy part out here at the top. And this one is certainly no stranger to that. It just digs right into the palm, and it's just uncomfortable unless I'm maybe doing a pinch grip with the blade. But any kind of any kind of a saber grip going on there, it's just absolutely not fitting my hand at all, which is fairly unfortunate. There we go. Yeah, we got about 8.5 inches out of this one here. Super crazy good action on it, though. So there's that. Here we are with another Jelly-Jerry design here. And this one, I am enjoying quite a bit. This is TS369. Let's go ahead and open that up with the thumb studs here. You can see we got a kind of a tall drop point sort of thing going on here. About 8 3/4 of an inch overall length going on here. We have a really gradual plunge grind, but still it's nice and thin out there, so it doesn't really bother me when I'm trying to sharpen. I did, however, remove the thumb stud when I wanted to sharpen that, just to get that out of the way, because it actually is a little bit in the blade path there, but that's all right. Pocket clip ends up working out quite well. Super nice and easy to get in and out of the pocket. I don't necessarily really enjoy the kind of exposed little lanyard thing there, but it doesn't bother me in the hand, so I don't really have a huge amount of complaints with that. We got a bolster lock there. Not much of a lock bar access or anything like that in this particular instance, but super easy to get to that. I have run into one interesting kind of thing, is that these thumb studs stick out quite a bit more than the scales in this particular instance. And it's halfway acted as an Emerson wave feature, where I wasn't anticipating that. It happened when I pulled the knife out after a day of work and came back home and pulled it out to set it down here to deal with the knives before I put them away and all that sort of stuff. And the blade was halfway out, because these thumb studs can catch on some of your clothes there as you're pulling them out. So that's a little weird. But overall, I really do like this thing. It's got some nice geometry to it. D2 blade. If you don't like the green, I do believe they also did if you don't like the purple, I believe they also did a green variant, and I think just a standard bead blast finish on it as well. But really nice larger design here from Jelly-Jerry that has made me quite happy, and I really do like the color combination there with the kind of deepish green of the micarta and the purple. This thing also has some quite nice action as well. So there we are with that. Let's see, next up, we got the TS370. This is a Wong design. And this is a incredibly deep curve karambit sort of thing. You can see it's basically like 9 inches overall. For me, this one's really kind of weird. If I try to use that ring, at least for my pinky, I am really far away from the blade. Feels like the handle in that particular instance is just too long. But it's nice and comfortable if I'm not using that. However, I'm sure that's much more designed if you want to use it a little bit more in the martial arts kind of grip for these guys, and that keeps you nice and well away from the blade for any of those kind of things going on there. Some interesting thumb studs on this thing here. They don't really have a huge amount of traction, but they also don't hurt like the ones on let's see, since I have it right here, the 182, yeah, where these things still hurt to actually attempt to deploy them that way. This doesn't have that problem, but also front flipper, so there you go. This is a nested steel liner lock. The scales and backspacer ring and all that's titanium. Of course, we have a kind of a black wash or a stone washed after coating sort of thing going on with this one in particular. Interesting. Not my favorite, but still glad to have it in my collection for all of that sort of stuff there. Pocket clip is actually fairly difficult to use on this thing here. It doesn't have a huge amount of room for the fabric, and it's just a little bit difficult to try to get in there because it's got this because of the way the scales are milled there. But all right, let's see. Next, we got the TS371, and I've recently reviewed this little guy. I really do enjoy this thing. This is, about a little over 7 inches overall, maybe 7 1/4 or something like that. D2 steel on this guy here. We have brass inserts here. This is, another one of those liner locks. Not quite nested in this particular case, but that's all right. We do have nice, thick titanium scales going on here that, of course, that liner is inset into, and then brass on the other side. And that's kind of why they're fairly thick. Blade geometry on this thing is super, super nice. It's a little bit thinner than some of their other knives are. And these funky looking thumb studs end up working out super, super nice. And they give you an extra little platform for your thumb out there that the scale doesn't reach fully out for. You can grip up a little bit. The plunge grind on it is done fairly decently. Nice stonewash finish. Unfortunately, the pocket clip on this is next to impossible to use. It's just way too stiff, unfortunately. So that's something that maybe I can end up bending this out just a little bit to make it a little bit easier to accept into pants pockets. It's not impossible like that other Rihe design, but still fairly difficult. And these little silver discs here, they're also titanium, but polished like some of their pivot collars are. I'll leave that one here because the TS372 is kind of in that same vein. Also a Wong design here. This one is also titanium. And then we have the brass on here that is, these are onlaid. They're not inlaid at all. So there's not really a channel or anything like that these sit in on that titanium. But because of that, they do have more weight relieving going on the inside here. This one is a really, really long, thin, stabby kind of knife. Really, really nice sharpening choil and plunge grind going on with it. And I do appreciate that quite a bit. Pocket clip is quite stiff, but still much easier to deal with than a little smaller guy there. Not a huge amount of lock bar access going on this one, unfortunately. It's still easy enough for me to end up doing that. And this is a front flipper, but no jimping on it at all. But it's designed much more like a Hegel no Kami for slow roll open anyway. So, I suppose you can complain a little bit on that, but I really haven't had any problems opening it up. Maybe it'd be a little bit more difficult if my hands were actually like wet with sweat, but also at that point, brass doesn't mix super great with a lot of hand sweat, it will end up patina and then going into corroding and all of that sort of stuff really quick from the acids in your hand. But yeah, about 8¼ inches for this guy. Really like it. Like I said in my review of it, I do kind of think of this thing a bit in that Kershaw leak kind of territory, and a lot of that has to do with kind of the blade. This, of course, is a modified Wharncliffe blade, but that just the extra rounding up there almost makes me think of it more of a reverse Tonto kind of thing. But yeah, really like both of these guys. They were fairly interesting. Let's see. Next up, we got the TS373. This is another Hawkbill blade, Karambit from Wong. There we go. Open this guy up. Quite a bit shorter blade than that black one that we had taken a look at earlier. This one has a nice acid wash and then tumbled finish going on the titanium portions here. That G-Mascus kind of G10 material going on there. Pocket clip all up in there. This one has kind of a ball point to it, which makes it a little bit more difficult to get in and out of the pocket. It's also a nested liner lock. There we go. This one, though, using the ring, much more comfortable for me overall. It just fits the palm of my hand a little bit more, has a bit more swell and everything going on for it. But you can also easily use that, especially with these couple of sharp crenellations, in case you wanted to use it a little bit more as an EDC, where you're not actually using that ring. And, of course, you can also use it in the reverse grip positions and all of that sort of good stuff there. Not quite as deep of a curve as the black one is, but that also makes it much more easy to sharpen and all that sort of stuff. And these thumb studs do have just a little tiny bit of stepping texture on there to help them out. I do like this one quite a bit. I do like it more than that 370, but still, I don't EDC a Karambit very often. Anyway, there we go. All right, this one came out really soon, or really recently. This is the TS375. This is their first axis or crossbar style lock going on. It's a NightMorning design. It's got that same kind of thing that we saw on a knife earlier. Let's go ahead and open that up. And yeah, this is about 8 inches overall. This one is the stonewash blade. Most of them that are out there that I've seen actually have a coated blade, but I opted for the stonewash on this one. Looks like I still have some tape glue. I've been using this thing a bit recently. There's a lot of really good and interesting things going on with it. Unfortunately, the pocket clip is kind of mounted into the micarta there a little bit. But this micarta is quite a bit more sturdy, and the way that this thing is actually cut out, it's going to take quite a bit of work overall before that ends up having a pocket wiggle or anything like that going on there. This thing is built and designed a lot like the Benchmade 940, in which we do have the titanium scales on the outside, and then a steel insert that basically has the whole blade assembly and all that sort of stuff inside there. Just like most other crossbar locks, you probably don't want to fully disassemble this knife. It's putting it back together that's a little bit more of a pain in the butt, but overall, I really do like it. It's got those kind of larger thumb studs. That works out all right. We got a really nice drop point blade going on here. It's D2 at the moment. Polished natural micarta in this particular instance here. Has a really nice action from the bearings that are going on in here. Not multi-row bearings, even though there was kind of room for it with the whole blade tang, which is a little surprising to me, but it's fine. Unfortunately, this one here, it does have just a little tiny bit of blade rock. That does happen with a lot of companies' crossbar locks, unfortunately, especially if they're fairly new to the whole manufacturing of them. And it will go away if you kind of have a little bit more force going that way. So if you did have put just a little bit more pressure by bending the omega springs just a little bit, that might end up helping you out a little bit. But that being said, you are in absolutely no way in danger of this thing fully slipping off and failing like can happen on some button locks that end up having a little bit of up and down blade play. Just a very different overall locking mechanism and all that sort of stuff. But still, it's a pretty good outing. I do wish that if they do pursue any more of these locks, and I hope that they do, they can kind of fix that up and down blade play a little bit there. Something that's really nice about most access locks is usually that forces a decent sharpening choil on there. As you can see here, if you pull back on this, it does force the blade up a little bit. Makes it a little bit easier to start that ability to flick the blade open and stuff like that. Other companies like SOG or SOG have done similar things like that. No snaggletooth on here, so that's great. We got external from the blade stop pin. And yeah, like you can see, the plunge grind is still fairly gradual, but still way before the blade, so that ends up working out super, super nice. Love to see what they end up doing with a little bit more of these, because these locks are just fantastic overall, especially if you can open and close them with single finger rather than having to do a pinch on both sides. All right, next up we got the TS376 color in this particular instance. This is another Max Tkachuk design. Here we are. This one has quite a bit of knuckle clearance. Probably not too bad for like a camp food prep or something like that. Because of that, it's a Max Tkachuk design. Sorry if I repeated myself there. We're a long way into the video here. But yeah, pocket clip ends up working out great. We have a little bit of weight relieving on the inside. Fairly simple design. This has full size bearings on this one, which Max Tkachuk usually doesn't do on his designs here with TwoSun. He usually opts for the smaller ones, even if they are larger. But this one has the full size ones going on there. This one can be a little bit difficult to attempt a slow thumb roll out with, but real easy to do a full thumb flick, and of course reverse flick comes right open. I got some nice deep crenellations here, some on the blade, some on the handle. Yeah, nice stonewash on the blade and all that sort of stuff. Pocket clip ends up working out great. Interesting that they do have a little bit of a raised portion here for the hardened steel insert sort of thing. Just a little bit different. And we got a huge lanyard loop there if that's something that's important to you. You can really end up choking up really far forward if you're really working, doing some detailed but heavy cuts with the heel or something like that. Pretty good overall. I do think, at least for myself, that kind of some of the edges that we got going on the tops and bottoms are maybe just a little too sharp. Maybe if they rounded them over a little bit more, it might have made it just a little bit more comfortable for me. But yeah, I suppose that's just kind of a nitpick. It's a pretty darn good knife. Nice action as well. All right. Still got a lot to go here. In fact, this is probably a good time for me to go ahead and pause, and we'll come back because, geez, there's a lot more to talk about than I thought. So catch you on the next one.